on hearing this. We keep on hearing this, and it's always a B2C versus B2B, and B2C is what we keep on hearing in the college days from the Unilever and the ITC case studies. But the days have changed, the times have changed. Pre-COVID also, and I'm now sure post-COVID, the days have changed, and as I said, the mindset is more B2B. So, is it really a fact or a myth that B2B sales is always a long time to sell? What's your take on that, Pratyaksh?
Yeah, right. So I think this is a dilemma, which most of the people who enter the industry have to face, right? And most of them come with a preconceived notion, right? Whether they think that, if it's a B2B sales, then, it will take a long time to close the deal, right? If you ask me, to be very frank, whether is it a fact or a myth? I would say it's actually both. It's a fact as well as a myth. Okay, I'll tell you the reason why. See, every industry has a different timeline, right? It may so happen that it takes a lot of time for you to close a deal, right, in a B2B environment. But that doesn't hold true for all the industries. So to each industry, it's specific. So just to give you an example, if you go to a company like Make My Trip, right, or Oyo for that matter, what will happen is, a salesman can go on a day. He can start a day making 4 calls in the entire day, right? He can make 4 prospective clients, and that can be completely a cold call, right? 4 cold calls in a day, right? He can go and he can sign up with the client, right? He can say that, okay, you can become my business partner. He's not selling his product as yet, right? But he sold a part of his service to him. That means he's made that client a business partner, right? And he can probably start selling from the next day onwards. Right. So it has happened. I know a lot of friends who are into the similar industry. Like in Make My Trip, they went in the morning, they signed up with the client, and from the very day, same day in the evening or next in the morning, they start getting the business. Like, I want to book a ticket, or I want to book a business trip. And similarly for industries like hospitality, like Oyo, right? It can also happen that you try to close a deal and you don't get the business for the next 6 months. So in the same industry with the same company, the long and the short time applies in both the conditions. Right now, that is one of the aspects, right? See, what is also happening is that it depends upon how recurring the requirement is of the company, right? If the requirement is on everyday basis, wherein what happens, let's say in case if a company is sending its sales employees, right, on business trips, and if the frequency is as high as 5 times or 6 times in a month, right, then you start getting business from the very first day or the very first week, right? And you don't have that much of time to close the deal and even start getting the business, right? But if the frequency is that of once in 6 months, then obviously it takes some time, right? So that is the first and the foremost thing, right? Then second thing which matters, whether it will take long time or a short time to sell, is the cost involved, right? So say for example, if the cost of closing a deal is very, very high, right, then it's very natural that in all probability, it will go to the top management, right? If the cost is too high, the juniors or the administrations of the company do not have the authority to take the call, right? So first, a salesman will have to go present the product to the client. He will have to hard sell it, and then the commercials come into the picture. Once the commercial comes into the picture, then the first round of negotiation takes place. Immediately, the admin will start doing the negotiations with you, right? After the first round of negotiations, he'll say, okay, fine, I'll see what has to be done. If he's convinced, then he will take it to the top management. Once it goes to the top management, then obviously they don't, they are not free all the time. So they have their own lot of pending work which they have to do. Then they take their time out. Then they review, they do the cost benefit analysis, and then they come back and say, okay, fine. I think, what I think it's a little too high on price. So maybe you need to renegotiate, right? And then it comes back to the admin, it comes back to the, to the salesman, and then again he has to go to the management and convince them, okay, fine, this is what they're asking for, and we need to renegotiate. So this whole process, right, can take anything between 1 to 6 months as well, right? Depending upon how big is the requirement, right, or how in need the company is in, right? So that is how it goes. So if the product or services which you are trying to sell, right, is anything between, let's say hypothetically, anything which cost 10 lakh rupees, right, to a client, right, then I don't think it takes a week's time or 10 days time for closure to take place. It can take anything from 1 month to 5 months or 6 months, right? So that is the cost involved is one of the major factor which decides whether it will take a long time to sell or a short time to sell, right? Third important factor is that it really depends upon who has the authority. If the junior admin of the team of the company, right, or of the mid management of the company has the authority to take the call, right, then there is a high chance that it can close, anywhere between 10 days to a month's time or a month and a half, right? If the call has to be taken by the top management, the CEOs or the CFOs, then again the timeline expands. It can go anywhere between 2 months to 6 months of time, right? So that is another factor. The fourth biggest factor is that the product or the service which you are trying to sell, do they already have an existing partner for that?
Sure.
Right? So that shows how much are they in the need, right? So if, say for example, if I'm in Hungerbox, right, and we digitalize the corporate cafeteria, if I go and approach a company who already have an existing vendor who's digitalizing their cafeteria, then it will take a long time for me, right, to go and convince them and tell them that I'm a better choice for you, right, than your existing service provider, right? However, if a client comes to me and says that I'm looking for a service provider and I do not have any, right, then the whole premise change.
Sure.
In that case, what happens is that the company is in need and they want to close it as soon as possible. So from a position wherein I was trying to convince the client to close the deal, now he is after me to close the deal, right? So what happens over here is that it can happen, and I have experienced it, right? We have closed the deal with the clients where they had no service provider in a matter of 15 to 20 days, right? And against the situation where they already has an existing vendor, right, or an existing business partner, and it took almost a year and a half for us to close the deal. So same situation, same service, same commercials, and the timeline can be from 15 days to 1.5 years.
Sure.